You think modern life hacks are clever? Think again. Long before Pinterest boards and YouTube tutorials, Appalachian families were solving everyday problems with ingenuity born from isolation and necessity. Here are 30 oddly useful hillbilly home hacks that actually work. Newspaper window insulation was the original weatherproofing solution that mountain families relied on when cold winds whistled through drafty cabins. Families collected old newspapers throughout the year, saving them specifically for winter when temperatures plummeted and heating fuel was precious. The technique involved wetting the newspaper slightly, then pressing it firmly against window glass where it would dry and adhere, creating a barrier against cold air. Some families layered multiple sheets, building up thickness that trapped air pockets and reduced heat loss dramatically. The newspaper could be peeled away come spring without damaging the glass, and the cost was absolutely nothing since papers were subscribed to or scavenged from town. Children often helped with this annual ritual, learning early that comfort didn't require spending money when clever thinking was available. The yellowed papers gave windows a peculiar tint, but nobody minded when the alternative was shivering through January nights. Bacon grease lamp was an emergency lighting solution that turned kitchen waste into functional illumination when kerosene ran low or power lines failed. Families saved rendered bacon fat in metal cans, knowing it could serve double duty beyond cooking. The process involved pouring the solidified grease into a shallow dish, then inserting a twisted cotton rag or piece of string as a wick. Once lit, the grease burned slowly with a steady yellow flame that could illuminate a room for hours. The light wasn't bright, but it was enough for evening chores, reading, or navigating dark hallways during storms. The smell was distinctive, a smoky bacon aroma that filled the house, but families considered it preferable to sitting in darkness. This hack represented the mountain philosophy that nothing should be wasted when it could serve another purpose. Many households kept a dedicated bacon grease lamp ready throughout winter months when storms frequently knocked out electricity. Cornmeal ant barrier was a pest control method that protected pantries and kitchens without toxic chemicals or expensive exterminators. Families discovered that sprinkling dry cornmeal along windowsills, doorways, and cabinet edges created a line that ants wouldn't cross. The theory held that ants would carry cornmeal back to their colonies where it would expand inside their digestive systems, eliminating the problem at its source. Whether scientifically accurate or not, the method worked well enough that families passed it down through generations. The cornmeal was cheap, safe around children and pets, and didn't require any special application beyond sprinkling it where ants appeared. Some families mixed the cornmeal with sugar to make it more attractive to foraging ants, increasing its effectiveness as bait. This hack remained popular precisely because it used an ingredient every mountain kitchen already stocked, turning pantry staples into practical pest solutions. Vinegar copper cleaner transformed tarnished pots, pans, and hardware into gleaming surfaces using nothing but pantry vinegar and table salt. The method was simple enough that children could help with the task, mixing white vinegar with salt to create a paste that cut through oxidation and grime. Families would rub this mixture onto copper surfaces using old rags or their bare hands, watching dark tarnish dissolve away to reveal the warm orange metal underneath. The chemical reaction between acid and salt broke down the oxidized layer without scratching or damaging the copper beneath. Mountain households took pride in their copper cookware, often passed down through generations, and this cleaning method kept heirloom pieces functional and beautiful. The same mixture worked on brass door hardware, cabinet pulls, and decorative items throughout the home. No store-bought polish could match the effectiveness or the satisfaction of watching grime disappear. Potato rust remover was a surprisingly effective tool for restoring rusted cast iron, knife blades, and metal implements to working condition. The technique involved cutting a raw potato in half, dipping the cut surface into dish soap or salt, then using it to scrub rusted metal surfaces. The oxalic acid naturally present in potatoes reacted with iron oxide, loosening rust and allowing it to be wiped away easily. Families discovered this hack when polishing their precious cast iron skillets, the cornerstones of mountain cooking that needed regular maintenance to stay functional. The potato provided gentle abrasion without scratching seasoned surfaces, making it safer than steel wool or harsh chemicals that could damage the pan's coating. Children were often assigned this task, working through collections of rusty tools and kitchen implements on Saturday mornings. The method was slow but effective, requiring patience as the potato gradually broke down rust layer by layer. Egg carton. Fire starters turned kitchen waste into reliable kindling that could ignite reluctant firewood on cold mornings. Families saved cardboard egg cartons throughout the year, filling each cup with dryer lint, sawdust, or small wood shavings. Melted candle wax or bacon grease was poured over the mixture, creating compact fire-starting pods that burned hot and long enough to catch larger wood. Each carton yielded a dozen individual starters that could be stored indefinitely in dry locations. The hack solved the perpetual challenge of starting fires in wood stoves and fireplaces, especially during damp weather when kindling refused to catch. One pod placed beneath arranged firewood could have flames roaring within minutes, eliminating the frustration of failed fire attempts. Mountain families kept supplies of these starters ready throughout winter months, knowing reliable heat was essential to survival. Flour paste wallpaper adhesive was homemade glue that hung wallpaper, sealed envelopes, and repaired torn books without requiring store-bought products. The recipe called for cooking flour and water together over low heat until the mixture thickened into smooth paste. The result was strong, flexible adhesive that dried clear and held paper firmly against surfaces. Families used this paste to decorate their homes with wallpaper scraps, catalog pages, or newspaper sheets, brightening otherwise plain wooden walls. The same paste sealed important letters, repaired children's school books, and attached labels to canning jars. Making paste became a household skill passed from mothers to daughters, with each family adjusting flour-to-water ratios based on experience. The paste cost virtually nothing and worked as well as commercial products for most paper applications. It represented self-sufficiency, proving that basic cooking skills could solve problems far beyond the kitchen. Coffee grounds odor absorber eliminated refrigerator smells, neutralized garbage odors, and freshened musty closets using yesterday's breakfast waste. Families discovered that dried coffee grounds absorbed unpleasant odors as effectively as expensive baking soda, pulling smells from the air and trapping them permanently. Small dishes of grounds placed in refrigerators would eliminate the mingled food odors that accumulated over weeks. The same grounds sprinkled in garbage cans prevented the worst summer smells from overwhelming kitchens. Closets and storage areas benefited from sachets filled with dried grounds, keeping mustiness at bay in spaces with limited ventilation. The grounds could be refreshed periodically by drying new batches in the sun or oven, maintaining effectiveness indefinitely. This hack represented the mountain commitment to finding second uses for everything, transforming waste into household utility. Butter wrapper greaser was a frugal technique that squeezed every bit of value from purchased butter by saving wrappers for greasing baking pans. Families carefully preserved the waxy paper wrappers after unwrapping butter sticks, folding them and storing them in kitchen drawers. When recipes called for greased pans, these saved wrappers provided enough residual butter to coat surfaces without using additional product. Children learned early to smooth wrappers flat rather than crumpling them, maximizing the usable surface area. The wrappers worked perfectly for cake pans, cookie sheets, and bread loaf tins, preventing sticking without any waste. Some families stored wrappers in the refrigerator to keep the butter residue fresh, while others kept them at room temperature for easier spreading. This simple habit saved measurable amounts of butter over time, stretching grocery budgets in households where every penny counted. Onion cough syrup was homemade medicine that soothed winter coughs and colds using nothing but onions, sugar, and patience. The preparation involved slicing onions into rings, layering them with sugar in a jar, and allowing the mixture to sit overnight. By morning, the sugar had drawn liquid from the onions, creating a sweet syrup with natural antibacterial and expectorant properties. Families administered spoonfuls to coughing children and adults, finding relief from symptoms without expensive doctor visits or pharmacy purchases. The taste was sweet, with underlying onion sharpness, Not pleasant, but tolerable enough for sick family members. The syrup could be made in large batches during cold season, stored in cool pantries, and administered as needed throughout winter months. This remedy represented generations of folk medicine knowledge, practical healing that worked when professional medical care was miles away. Salt ice cream maker was a summer hack that turned hot afternoons into frozen treat celebrations without requiring expensive equipment or electricity. Families would nest a small metal can inside a larger bucket, filling the space between with crushed ice and rock salt. The salt lowered the freezing point of the ice, creating temperatures cold enough to freeze cream mixture placed in the inner can. Children took turns cranking or shaking the apparatus, watching through patient labor as liquid transformed into creamy dessert. The process took 30 minutes or more of continuous effort, but the anticipation made the rewards sweeter. Homemade ice cream tasted richer than store-bought versions, made with fresh cream, sugar, and whatever flavorings the family had available. Vanilla extract was common, but summer berries or peaches from the orchard made seasonal variations that became family traditions passed down through generations of hot weather gatherings. Soap sliver ball was a thrifty bathroom hack that transformed unusable soap remnants into functional new bars through simple household chemistry. Families saved every soap sliver too small to use effectively, collecting them in jars or bowls until enough accumulated. The slivers were then moistened, pressed together firmly, and molded by hand into new bars that worked as well as fresh soap. Some families added hot water to soften the pieces before combining them, creating smoother finished products. Others grated the slivers and packed them into molds, producing bars with interesting marbled patterns. Children often helped with this project, enjoying the tactile satisfaction of squishing soap pieces together. The practice eliminated waste entirely, ensuring that every bit of purchased soap served its purpose. This hack represented the mountain philosophy that throwing away useful material was simply unacceptable when creativity could extend its life. Kerosene stain remover was a powerful cleaning solution that lifted grease, oil, and stubborn marks from fabric when commercial products were unavailable or unaffordable. Families kept kerosene on hand for lamps and heaters, discovering its secondary use as a remarkably effective degreaser. Small amounts dabbed onto stained fabric would dissolve grease and oil that water couldn't touch, lifting marks from work clothes and kitchen linens. The technique required careful application and thorough washing afterward to remove the kerosene smell, but the results justified the extra effort. Mechanics and farmers especially valued this hack, knowing their heavily soiled work clothes could be salvaged rather than discarded. Women shared the technique at quilting bees and church gatherings, spreading practical knowledge through community networks. The kerosene cost nothing extra since families already stocked it, making this hack purely about creative repurposing of existing resources. Bread bag boot covers were improvised waterproofing that kept feet dry during wet weather when proper rain boots were unavailable or worn through. Families saved the plastic bags that store-bought bread came in, recognizing their potential as emergency foot protection. The bags were pulled over socks before feet went into shoes or boots, creating a moisture barrier that prevented water from reaching skin. Children walked to school through puddles and mud with dry feet, protected by nothing more than yesterday's bread wrapper. The bags were thin enough to fit inside regular footwear without discomfort, yet sturdy enough to survive a day's wear before tearing. Parents taught this trick to children as essential survival knowledge, understanding that wet feet in cold weather could lead to serious illness. The hack cost nothing and worked remarkably well, proving that protective gear didn't require store purchases. Walnut shell dye created rich brown coloring for fabric, Easter eggs, and craft projects using nothing but discarded nut shells and water. Families collected black walnut shells throughout autumn, knowing the dark hulls contained powerful natural pigments. The shells were boiled in water for hours, producing a deep brown liquid that could permanently stain natural fibers and porous materials. Fabric soaked in the dye emerged transformed, colored in shades ranging from tan to nearly black, depending on concentration and soaking time. The same dye worked beautifully on Easter eggs, creating earthy tones that contrasted with commercial pastel colors. Children helped gather shells and watch the magic of color extraction, learning early that nature provided solutions for creative needs. The dye was color-fast and required no chemical mordants for cotton and wool, making it completely free and entirely natural. Clothespin chip clip was a simple repurposing that kept opened food packages sealed and fresh using wooden pins designed for hanging laundry. Families discovered that the spring-loaded grip, perfect for securing clothes to lines, worked equally well for folding over bag openings. Chip bags, cereal boxes, and flour sacks stayed fresher longer when clipped shut, preventing staleness and keeping pests out of pantry goods. The wooden clothespins were already present in every household, requiring no additional purchase for this secondary function. Children learned to clip bags closed after snacking, developing habits of food preservation that prevented waste. The pins could be dedicated to kitchen use or shared between laundry and pantry duties without any problems. This hack represented the mountain understanding that simple tools often served multiple purposes when people thought creatively about their possessions. Ash water cleaner was a powerful degreasing solution made from nothing but fireplace ashes and water, cutting through kitchen grime without commercial products. Families would collect wood ash from stoves and fireplaces, mixing it with water to create lye solution that dissolved grease on contact. The mixture was used to clean cast iron pans, scrub greasy stovetops, and cut through baked-on food residue that soap alone couldn't handle. The alkaline properties of ash water made it remarkably effective, working as well as modern degreasers at absolutely no cost. Care was needed since the solution could irritate skin, so families used rags or brushes rather than bare hands. The same ash water served as garden fertilizer after cleaning duties were complete, providing nutrients to soil. This hack connected daily housework to the cycles of heating, cooking, and growing that defined mountain life. Pine needle tea was a vitamin-rich beverage that prevented scurvy and boosted immunity during winter months when fresh fruits and vegetables were unavailable. Families gathered green pine needles from surrounding forests, steeping them in boiling water to extract nutrients. The resulting tea contained more vitamin C than orange juice, providing essential nutrition that stored foods couldn't offer. The flavor was sharp and resinous, an acquired taste that children often resisted until they understood its importance. Sweetened with honey or sugar, the tea became more palatable while retaining its health benefits. Families drank it throughout winter, especially during illness when the body needed extra support. The needles were free for the gathering, available even in the deepest snow when nothing else green survived. This hack represented folk medicine wisdom passed through generations, practical nutrition that kept families healthy through harsh mountain winters. Cornstarch baby powder was a gentle alternative to commercial products that soothed diaper rash and absorbed moisture using common kitchen ingredients. Families discovered that plain cornstarch worked as effectively as expensive talcum powders for keeping babies dry and comfortable. The powder was applied to clean, dry skin, absorbing moisture and reducing friction that caused painful rashes. Some families added dried lavender or chamomile flowers ground fine, creating naturally scented versions that smelled pleasant without chemical fragrances. The cornstarch cost pennies compared to pharmacy products and contained no potentially harmful additives. Mothers shared this knowledge at baby showers and new parent gatherings, ensuring practical wisdom passed to the next generation. The hack worked for adults too, preventing chafing during hot summer work and keeping feet dry inside boots during long days of labor. Newspaper gift wrap transformed yesterday's news into festive packaging that celebrated occasions without requiring store-bought paper or ribbon purchases. Families saved newspapers with interesting headlines, colorful advertisements, or comic sections specifically for wrapping birthday and Christmas presents. The paper was surprisingly sturdy, holding its shape around boxes and soft packages alike with proper folding technique. Children enjoyed searching through papers for the perfect sections, choosing comics for young recipients or sports pages for enthusiastic fans. Twine or yarn replaced ribbon, adding rustic charm that complemented the newsprint aesthetic. Some families added hand-drawn decorations or pressed flowers to personalize their wrapped gifts further. The practice saved money while reducing waste, ensuring every newspaper served multiple purposes before finally reaching the burn pile or compost heap. Vinegar fabric softener was a laundry hack that eliminated static cling and softened rough fabrics without expensive commercial products or artificial fragrances. Families added half a cup of white vinegar to the rinse cycle, watching as clothes emerged softer and fresher than detergent alone could achieve. The vinegar neutralized detergent residue that made fabrics stiff, while its natural acidity broke down mineral deposits from hard water that accumulated in fibers. Clothes dried faster and felt better against skin, especially important for families with sensitive children or limited wardrobes. The smell dissipated completely during drying, leaving no trace of vinegar on finished laundry. Some families added essential oil drops for pleasant scent, though most appreciated the neutral freshness. The hack cost pennies per load compared to commercial softeners, making it accessible to even the tightest budgets. This simple substitution proved that effective laundry care didn't require specialized products from stores. Honey wound dressing was a first aid treatment that promoted healing and prevented infection using nothing but raw honey from local hives or pantry stores. Families applied honey directly to minor cuts, scrapes, and burns, covering the wound with clean cloth or bandages to keep the honey in place. The honey's natural antibacterial properties inhibited bacterial growth, while its thick consistency kept wounds moist for optimal healing. Children's scraped knees and kitchen burns healed faster with less scarring when treated with honey instead of nothing at all. The treatment was especially valuable in remote areas where pharmacies were hours away and medical supplies were limited or expensive. Some families kept dedicated jars of honey specifically for medicinal use, recognizing its value beyond sweetening food. Modern science has confirmed what mountain families knew instinctively, that honey contains compounds that genuinely promote wound healing and fight infection naturally. Oatmeal bath soak was a skin treatment that relieved itching from poison ivy, insect bites, and dry winter skin using breakfast cereal as medicine. Families ground plain oatmeal into fine powder using rolling pins or food grinders, then added it to warm bath water where it created a milky, soothing solution. The oatmeal's natural compounds calmed inflammation and coated irritated skin with protective film that reduced scratching urges. Children covered in mosquito bites or suffering from chickenpox found relief soaking in oatmeal baths when nothing else helped ease their discomfort. The treatment cost almost nothing since oatmeal was a kitchen staple purchased in bulk for breakfast porridge. Some families made oatmeal paste for spot treatment, applying it directly to poison ivy rashes or bee stings for faster relief. This hack represented the mountain understanding that healing didn't require pharmacy purchases when pantry ingredients offered genuine therapeutic benefits. Candle wax drawer lubricant was a furniture hack that made sticky drawers and stubborn windows glide smoothly without expensive hardware store products. Families rubbed candle stubs or leftover wax along wooden drawer rails and window tracks, creating a slick surface that reduced friction dramatically. The wax filled tiny grooves and imperfections in the wood, smoothing the contact surfaces and preventing the swelling that caused sticking during humid summer weather. Drawers that had required 2 hands to open suddenly slid with a finger's touch after wax treatment. The same technique worked on zippers, door hinges, and any other mechanism where wood or metal rubbed together. Old candle stubs that might otherwise be discarded found new purpose as household lubricant, extending their usefulness beyond illumination. This hack demonstrated the mountain principle that solutions often already existed in the home, waiting for creative minds to recognize their potential. Eggshell calcium supplement was a nutritional hack that turned kitchen waste into dietary mineral, using nothing but discarded shells and simple preparation techniques. Families saved eggshells after cooking, rinsing them clean and allowing them to dry completely before grinding into fine powder using mortars or rolling pins. The resulting calcium-rich powder could be added to soups, smoothies, or taken directly with water as a daily supplement. Each eggshell contained roughly 750 milligrams of calcium, enough to significantly boost dietary intake for growing children and aging adults. Some families baked the shells first to ensure they were completely sterile before grinding, while others simply trusted thorough drying. The powder dissolved easily in acidic liquids like orange juice, making it palatable even for picky children. This hack provided essential nutrition at absolutely no cost, turning garbage into genuine health benefit through nothing more than patience and simple preparation. Lemon Rind Garbage Disposal Cleaner was a kitchen hack that freshened drains and eliminated odors using citrus scraps destined for the compost pile. Families saved lemon, orange, and grapefruit peels after juicing, dropping them into garbage disposals or drains where their oils cut through grease and left fresh scent behind. The citric acid in the peels helped dissolve buildup that caused clogs and smells, while the aromatic oils coated pipes with pleasant fragrance. Running the disposal with ice cubes and citrus peels together sharpened blades while cleaning and deodorizing simultaneously. Families without disposals simply poured boiling water over citrus peels placed in drain baskets, achieving similar freshening results through steam. The hack transformed kitchen waste into cleaning product, ensuring every part of purchased fruit served useful purpose before finally composting. This simple practice kept kitchens smelling fresh without chemical air fresheners or expensive drain treatments from hardware stores. Baking soda toothpaste was a dental care hack that cleaned teeth effectively when commercial toothpaste was unavailable or too expensive for large families to purchase regularly. Plain baking soda mixed with a few drops of water created a paste that scrubbed teeth clean and neutralized acids that caused decay. The mild abrasiveness polished enamel without damaging it, while the alkaline properties freshened breath naturally. Some families added a drop of peppermint oil for familiar minty flavor, though many used plain soda without any complaint. Children learned to brush with this homemade paste, understanding that clean teeth mattered more than fancy flavors. The baking soda cost pennies compared to commercial toothpaste and lasted longer since small amounts worked effectively. This hack kept mountain families' teeth healthy through decades when dental care meant hours of travel to distant towns, proving that prevention didn't require store-bought products or expensive dental visits. Newspaper shoe deodorizer was a footwear hack that absorbed moisture and eliminated odors from work boots and everyday shoes using nothing but yesterday's news. Families stuffed crumpled newspaper into wet or smelly shoes overnight, allowing the absorbent paper to wick moisture away from leather and fabric. By morning, shoes that had been damp and foul-smelling emerged dry and significantly fresher, ready for another day's wear. The newspaper also helped shoes maintain their shape while drying, preventing the warping that could make footwear uncomfortable. Families with limited shoe options especially valued this hack, knowing that proper drying extended the life of precious footwear significantly. Children learned to stuff their shoes with paper after rainy walks or sweaty play, developing habits that preserved their only pair through growth spurts. The newspaper cost nothing and worked remarkably well, proving that shoe care didn't require expensive sprays or specialized products from stores. Potato chip bag iron was an emergency pressing hack that smoothed wrinkled fabric using the metallic interior of snack bags and a regular household iron. Families discovered that placing the shiny side of a chip bag over delicate fabrics protected them from direct heat while allowing wrinkles to release smoothly. The metallic coating distributed heat evenly and prevented scorching on materials that couldn't handle high temperatures directly. Silk scarves, synthetic blends, and other heat-sensitive fabrics could be pressed safely using this improvised protective barrier. The bags were free since families bought chips anyway, and each bag could be reused multiple times before wearing out. This hack was especially valuable for families with limited wardrobes who needed clothes to last through multiple wearings between laundry days. The technique demonstrated creative problem-solving that turned common trash into useful household tools for maintaining appearance. Mayonnaise wood polish was a furniture care hack that cleaned, conditioned, and restored shine to wooden surfaces using nothing but sandwich spread from the refrigerator. Families applied small amounts of mayonnaise to wooden furniture, rubbing it in with soft cloths and buffing until surfaces gleamed with renewed warmth. The oil and egg in mayonnaise penetrated dry wood, moisturizing it from within while the vinegar cut through grime and water stains. Antique furniture that had lost its luster regained warmth and depth after mayonnaise treatment, looking cared for without expensive restoration. The technique worked on everything from dining tables to wooden picture frames, breathing life back into neglected pieces. Children could help with polishing, learning furniture care while contributing to household maintenance. This hack cost almost nothing and produced results that rivaled commercial wood polishes, costing far more at hardware stores. Drying apples on string lines was the preservation method that turned autumn abundance into winter sustenance without any special equipment or expensive supplies. Apple slices were threaded onto long strings using needles, then hung from rafters, porches, or any warm, dry spot where air could circulate freely around each piece. The process took days or weeks depending on humidity, with families checking constantly for signs of mold or insect damage. Properly dried apples shriveled into leathery rings that could be stored in cloth bags for months without spoiling. Come winter, these dried slices were rehydrated in water or cider and cooked into pies, cobblers, and fried pies that tasted of concentrated sweetness. Children helped with threading, learning patience and satisfaction of preparing for harder times. The strings became decorative as well as practical, hanging in kitchens where their sweet smell mixed with wood smoke. Root cellar food storage represented centuries of accumulated knowledge about temperature, humidity, and air circulation that modern scientists now study with sophisticated instruments. Mountain families dug into hillsides, creating naturally climate-controlled spaces, maintaining temperatures between 32 and 40 degrees year-round. These underground chambers kept potatoes from sprouting, apples from softening, and root vegetables from desiccating through entire winters. Food preservation researchers now understand that consistent cool temperatures and high humidity slow respiration and prevent ethylene damage causing deterioration. The layering techniques, storing apples away from potatoes, wrapping vegetables in newspaper, layering carrots in damp sand, reflected understanding of food chemistry textbooks would later confirm. Families maintaining these cool caverns stored enough produce to survive months of isolation. Modern homesteaders now build root cellars using these principles. Saving bacon grease in a jar by the stove was more than habit. It was economic survival that turned cooking byproduct into culinary gold worth more than its weight in store-bought shortening. Every strip of bacon rendered fat that was carefully strained through cheesecloth into a dedicated container, kept at room temperature for easy access during cooking. This grease-seasoned cast-iron skillets, fried eggs, flavored beans, greased biscuit pans, and added depth to any dish that needed richness. Mountain families understood that bacon grease carried concentrated pork flavor that expensive seasonings couldn't match. A jar might last weeks, providing free cooking fat that would otherwise cost precious grocery money. The practice was so universal that children assumed every kitchen had a grease jar until they visited city relatives who threw their drippings away. That small jar represented the difference between bland poverty food and meals that tasted like abundance. Soaking beans with baking soda was a trick that solved two problems at once in mountain kitchens where fuel was precious and time was always scarce for busy families. A pinch of baking soda added to soaking water softened dried beans faster by breaking down their tough outer skins, reducing cooking time by hours. For families burning wood, they had chopped themselves. Shorter cooking times meant real savings in labor and resources. The alkaline water also neutralized compounds that caused digestive discomfort, making beans easier on stomachs. Women learned exact amounts through trial and error, knowing too much soda left a soapy taste while too little made no difference. The beans soaked overnight in crocks near the warm stove, absorbing water and releasing starches. By morning, they were plump and ready, cooking to creamy softness in half the usual time. This knowledge passed quietly between neighbors as practical wisdom that made survival easier. Cast iron cooking was dismissed for decades as old-fashioned compared to modern non-stick surfaces, yet scientists now confirm what mountain cooks always knew. These heavy skillets delivered something essential beyond heat. Research proves that acidic foods cooked in cast iron absorb significant dietary iron, sometimes increasing iron content by 20 times or more. Appalachian women who simmered tomatoes, apples, and vinegar-based dishes in seasoned skillets were unknowingly treating iron deficiency anemia that plagued isolated communities. The pans themselves became supplements, leaching bioavailable iron into every pot of greens and every slow-simmered stew. Modern doctors now recommend cast iron cooking for pregnant women and children at risk of anemia. The seasoning process, coating pans with rendered lard and baking until glass smooth, created natural non-stick surfaces without synthetic chemicals researchers now question. Those heavy black skillets passed from mother to daughter carried more than recipes. Keeping a perpetual soup pot on the back of the wood stove was standard practice in mountain kitchens where nothing edible ever went to waste and every scrap found purpose. The pot stayed warm throughout the day, receiving vegetable trimmings, meat scraps, bones, leftover rice, pasta water, and anything else that still held nutrition. Each addition changed the flavor slightly, meaning no two bowls ever tasted exactly the same. Yet the soup remained consistently hearty and satisfying. Families ladled out portions for lunch or supper, then added water and new scraps to keep the cycle going for weeks at a time. The constant simmering extracted every vitamin and mineral from ingredients that would otherwise become garbage. This single pot could provide the base for countless meals, stretching resources beyond what seemed possible. Children grew up thinking soup was supposed to taste different every day, never realizing they were eating what modern folks might call kitchen waste, transformed into genuine nourishment. Greasing cast iron with fatback was the secret behind every properly seasoned skillet in rural Appalachian kitchens across the mountain south. Fatback, the thick layer of fat from a hog's back, was rubbed across cast iron cookware while still warm, creating a protective coating that prevented rust and built the non-stick surface that made mountain cooking possible. Women saved every scrap specifically for this purpose, keeping pieces wrapped in cloth near the stove where they stayed soft and ready to use. The process was repeated after every use, building layers of seasoning that turned cheap cast iron into family heirlooms passed through generations. A well-seasoned skillet required no additional oil for frying and released food effortlessly. Children learned this ritual by watching mothers perform it hundreds of times before being trusted with precious cookware. This simple trick transformed basic equipment into tools that lasted lifetimes and cooked food with unmatched quality. Water glass egg preservation allowed families to store eggs for months without refrigeration by submerging them in sodium silicate solution that sealed the porous shells completely. This technique, passed through generations of mountain women, kept eggs fresh from spring laying season through winter scarcity when hens stopped producing. Modern food scientists confirm that water glass creates an airtight barrier preventing bacterial contamination and moisture loss while maintaining quality for 6 months or longer. The eggs emerged from their mineral bath looking identical to fresh ones, with yolks standing high and whites holding firm. Commercial facilities now use similar principles, but the chemistry remains what farm wives discovered through necessity. Families practicing this technique never faced winter without eggs for baking or breakfast. The method required no refrigeration, no special equipment beyond a crock, and no ongoing attention. Growing windowsill herbs year-round provided fresh seasoning that transformed bland budget meals into something restaurant kitchens would envy without spending a cent on expensive dried herbs from stores. Women kept small pots of parsley, chives, thyme, and green onions growing in sunny windows throughout winter, snipping what they needed and letting the plants regrow continuously. These fresh herbs added brightness and complexity to soups, stews, eggs, and beans that dried versions couldn't match. Starting herbs from seed cost almost nothing, and once established, the plants produced indefinitely with basic water and sunlight. Mountain families understood that flavor was the difference between food you tolerated and food you anticipated, and fresh herbs provided flavor without cost. Children learned to recognize these plants and help tend them, understanding from young ages that food could come from the windowsill as easily as the store. A few pots of herbs represented independence from grocery store prices and seasons. Burying potatoes in ash was one of the oldest cooking methods mountain families used before electric ovens existed in rural Appalachian communities. Fresh potatoes were nestled directly into warm ashes at the edge of a fireplace, covered completely until only coals surrounded them on all sides. The ash acted as insulation, slowly roasting potatoes over several hours until skins turned papery and insides became fluffy and sweet. Families learned exactly how deep to bury them through years of practice passed from grandmother to granddaughter. The technique required no pots, no pans, and no fuel beyond what was already heating the home. Children were sent to check potatoes by poking them with sticks, learning doneness through texture rather than timers. The finished potatoes emerged with subtle smokiness no modern oven could replicate. This method fed families through winters when other cooking options were limited and fuel was precious. Haybox cooking was the ingenious method where mountain women would bring a pot to boil, then nestle it inside boxes stuffed with hay, quilts, or sawdust, and let residual heat finish cooking over hours without additional fuel. Scientists studying thermal retention now recognize this as remarkably efficient energy technology that modern slow cookers replicate with electricity. The insulation held temperatures in safe cooking range while allowing tough cuts and dried beans to tenderize slowly. Families who couldn't afford constant wood or coal used this method to produce stews, porridges, and braised meats requiring hours of cooking. Modern engineers study these principles for off-grid cooking solutions. The technique also prevented nutrient loss occurring with prolonged high-heat cooking, preserving vitamins that would otherwise break down. Contemporary chefs now use similar techniques under fancy names like passive cooking. Stretching ground meat with oatmeal was one of the oldest and most effective tricks passed down through generations of mountain families who understood that a pound of beef could become two with the right technique. Women would mix a cup of raw oatmeal into every pound of ground meat, adding an egg to bind everything together and seasonings to mask the grain. The oatmeal absorbed the meat juices during cooking, swelling into something that tasted remarkably close to pure beef while doubling the volume. This wasn't just about saving money, though a pound of oatmeal cost pennies compared to another pound of meat. The oatmeal actually improved the texture, keeping meatloaves moist and meatballs tender in ways that pure beef couldn't match. Families used this trick for everything from hamburger patties to chili to spaghetti sauce, feeding 8 mouths on what should have fed 4. The children never knew the difference, and parents smiled knowing their grocery budget stretched twice as far. Using vinegar to tenderize meat was how mountain families transformed tough cuts into something approaching luxury without spending money they did not have available. A few splashes of apple cider vinegar added to the marinade broke down tough muscle fibers in wild game and older livestock that would otherwise require hours of cooking. Families made their own vinegar from apple scraps, so the ingredient cost nothing beyond initial effort. The acid worked slowly overnight, penetrating deep into meat while adding subtle tanginess that complemented strong flavors of venison, squirrel, and tough old roosters. Women learned exact proportions through generations of practice, knowing how much was enough to tenderize without making meat mushy. The marinated meat could then be fried, roasted, or stewed with significantly shorter cooking times. This trick made poor cuts taste like quality and stretched limited protein into satisfying meals. Rendering lard at hog killing time was the process providing mountain families with cooking fat, skin moisturizer, soap ingredient, and medicinal base, all from portions modern processing discards. Scientists now recognize that properly rendered lard from pasture-raised pigs contains significant vitamin D, healthy monounsaturated fats similar to olive oil, and none of the trans fats in hydrogenated vegetable shortening. The rendering involved slowly cooking pork fat until it liquefied, then straining into crocks where it solidified into pure white cooking fat lasting months without refrigeration. Nutritionists who once condemned lard now acknowledge that traditional lard has a better fatty acid profile than many vegetable oils promoted as healthier. The cracklins left behind after rendering provided protein-rich snacks and additions to cornbread, stretching precious resources. Mountain cooks who saved every scrap of fat were practicing waste reduction that modern sustainability advocates now champion. Making flour gravy to stretch meals was the secret weapon of every mountain grandmother who understood that a few tablespoons of flour and some drippings could turn a small portion into a feast. After frying meat, the cook would sprinkle flour into the hot grease, stirring until it browned before slowly adding milk or water to create thick, rich gravy. This gravy covered biscuits, potatoes, rice, or bread, transforming carbohydrates into something that tasted like a complete meal with protein richness. The technique required skill and practice to avoid lumps, but once mastered, it became instinctive. A single pork chop could feed a family of 6 when sliced thin and smothered in gravy over a mountain of biscuits. The gravy absorbed the meat flavor, spreading it across every bite of starch. Families called it making something from nothing, though really it was making everything from something small and treating nothing as expendable. Storing eggs in water glass was the preservation method that kept mountain families supplied through winter months when hens stopped laying entirely and eggs became scarce. Water glass, a solution of sodium silicate and water, sealed eggshells by filling their tiny pores and preventing air and bacteria from entering. Fresh eggs were carefully lowered into crocks filled with the solution, where they remained edible for 6 months or longer without refrigeration. Families gathered eggs during peak laying season and preserved dozens at a time, ensuring protein through lean months. The technique required clean eggs with intact shells, so women handled each one carefully, rejecting any with cracks that might introduce contamination. Eggs preserved this way cooked normally, though they sometimes produced flatter whites, which mattered little when food security was the priority. The crocks were stored in cool cellars where temperatures stayed stable. Lacto-fermentation in stoneware crocks was how mountain families preserved vegetables through long winters without refrigeration, using salt, water, and thyme to transform cabbage into sauerkraut and cucumbers into pickles. Scientists now understand this process cultivates beneficial bacteria, lactobacillus strains that modern probiotic supplements attempt to replicate. The fermentation creates lactic acid, preserving food naturally while producing vitamins and compounds supporting gut health. Research confirms that traditional fermented vegetables contain bacterial diversity commercial probiotics cannot match. Mountain families who ate sauerkraut with every winter meal, who drank pickle brine for stomach troubles, were practicing preventive medicine. The cool root cellars where crocks sat bubbling provided perfect fermentation temperatures that modern enthusiasts carefully monitor with thermometers. What seemed like primitive preservation was actually sophisticated biotechnology. Buying day-old bread from bakeries at half price or less was a weekly ritual that smart rural families never missed when trips to town allowed shopping opportunities. Bakeries and grocery stores marked down yesterday's loaves to clear shelf space, offering perfectly good bread at fractions of the original cost. Mountain wives arrived early, knowing the best selection went fast to families who understood this simple trick. The bread worked perfectly for toast, sandwiches, breadcrumbs, bread pudding, stuffing, and French toast, where freshness mattered less than price. Some families bought enough day-old bread to last the week, storing loaves in cool pantries or even freezing them when electricity reached the hollows. Children ate sandwiches made from bread that cost pennies per loaf, never tasting any difference from the expensive fresh version. This single habit could cut bread expenses by 60% or more, freeing money for protein and vegetables. Wrapping food in wet newspaper before burying it in coals was a technique that created steam cooking without any equipment at all beyond what most families had available. The dampened paper protected food from direct contact with ash, while moisture trapped inside created pressure that cooked fish and vegetables evenly throughout. Mountain families learned this from Native American traditions and adapted it to their own needs, using whatever paper was available from rare newspapers to catalog pages. The paper charred on the outside while food inside steamed to perfection, emerging clean and thoroughly cooked. Timing was crucial because too long meant paper burned through while too short left food underdone. Experienced cooks developed instinct for judging coals and thickness. The technique worked especially well for delicate fish that fell apart when fried, keeping flesh intact while infusing subtle smoke flavor. Children watched this magic happen at fish fries. Smoke preservation in small wooden smokehouses transformed fresh meat into shelf-stable protein lasting through seasons without refrigeration, using nothing but hardwood smoke and thyme. Food scientists understand that smoking deposits phenolic compounds, organic acids, and carbonyl compounds inhibiting bacterial growth while creating antioxidant protection. The slow, cold smoking techniques mountain families used, hanging hams and bacon for weeks in cool smoke, created preservation conditions that food safety research confirms prevent pathogen development. The specific woods chosen, hickory, apple, oak, each contributed different antimicrobial compounds families discovered through generations of experience. Researchers now document that properly smoked meats remain safe for months at temperatures that would quickly spoil fresh meat. The smokehouses standing in every farmyard represented food security technology refined over centuries. Commercial processors now replicate these techniques but cannot fully match them. Using chicken backs and necks for rich stock was how mountain families extracted maximum value from poultry that city folks considered barely worth buying at rock-bottom prices per pound. These bony cuts contained collagen, marrow, and meat scraps that simmered into deeply flavorful broth perfect for soups, gravies, rice dishes, and cooking beans. A pound of backs and necks cost a fraction of breast meat, but provided the foundation for multiple meals stretching across the week. Women would simmer the bones for hours with onion, celery scraps, and peppercorns until the broth turned golden and rich. After straining, they picked every shred of meat from the bones, nothing wasted, adding it back to soups or serving it over rice. This stock became the base liquid for cooking grains, making them taste like they'd been prepared with expensive ingredients. The practice taught families that the cheapest cuts often held the most potential for those patient enough to extract it. Cooking on the shovel blade was frontier ingenuity at its most practical when families lacked proper cookware or needed quick meals away from the kitchen hearth. A flat-bladed shovel, cleaned thoroughly and heated over open flames, became an instant griddle for frying eggs, toasting bread, or cooking small portions of meat. Field workers carried shovels anyway, making them dual-purpose tools that fed hungry workers during long days away from home. The metal heated evenly when held at the right angle over flames, and the long handle kept hands safe from the fire. Fathers showed sons how to judge temperature by watching metal change color and feeling heat radiating upward. Food cooked directly on the blade picked up a faint mineral taste that became associated with outdoor work and simple satisfaction. This technique required no additional equipment and worked anywhere a fire could be built, making it invaluable for remote work. Nixtamalization was the ancient process of soaking dried corn in wood ash lye water that Appalachian families learned from Cherokee neighbors and practiced for generations. The process involved mixing hardwood ashes with water to create an alkaline solution, then soaking dried corn kernels until the tough outer hulls loosened and slipped away. What seemed like primitive folk cooking was actually sophisticated chemistry that modern nutritionists now celebrate. The lye treatment released niacin otherwise locked inside the corn, preventing pellagra, a devastating disease that plagued communities eating untreated cornmeal. The alkaline bath also increased calcium and improved protein quality by making amino acids more bioavailable. Mountain families who continued this practice never suffered the nutritional deficiencies striking populations eating refined corn. Scientists now study this exact process, calling it one of the most important food innovations in human history. Those grandmothers stirring ash water were performing biochemistry. Smoking meat in the chimney was how mountain families preserved pork, game, and fish, using smoke from fires they were already burning for warmth and cooking. Hooks or racks installed inside chimneys held meat in the rising smoke stream, which dried and flavored the flesh while depositing preservative compounds that prevented spoilage. The technique required careful attention because too much heat cooked the meat while too little failed to preserve it, so families positioned racks at exactly the right height. Different woods produced different flavors, with hickory and apple being prized while pine was avoided for its resinous taste. The process took days or weeks depending on the size of cuts, with someone checking regularly to ensure even smoking. Meat preserved this way lasted through entire winters without refrigeration, providing essential protein. The chimney served double duty, heating the home while preparing food for storage throughout the winter months. Bone broth simmering was the practice of cooking animal bones for hours or even days until the liquid turned rich, gelatinous, and deeply flavored with extracted nutrients. Scientists now confirm that this slow extraction releases collagen, gelatin, amino acids, and minerals, including calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, in forms the body readily absorbs. Mountain women who kept stock pots simmering on wood stoves, adding scraps and bones throughout the week, were creating liquid nutrition that modern wellness companies now sell for premium prices. The gelatin supports joint health and gut lining integrity, while the amino acids glycine and proline promote skin health and immune function. Nothing was wasted. Chicken feet, pig knuckles, beef marrow bones all contributed their particular richness to the pot. Families who drank bone broth daily, used it as cooking liquid, and served it to the sick were practicing evidence-based nutrition without knowing the science. Foraging wild greens in spring provided free vegetables packed with vitamins that mountain families needed after long winters, surviving on stored food and preserved meats. Women and children walked fields and forest edges gathering dandelion greens, poke salad, lamb's quarters, and wild onions that grew abundantly without any cultivation or cost. These greens required knowledge to identify safely, but that knowledge passed through generations until gathering became instinctive. Properly prepared, wild greens tasted as good or better than store-bought vegetables, with deeper mineral complexity from growing in rich forest soil. Some families gathered enough to can or dry for later, extending free food into seasons when nothing grew. The practice connected people to land in ways grocery shopping never could, teaching children that food existed everywhere if you knew how to find it. Spring foraging trips became family traditions, mixing nutrition gathering with outdoor time and generational knowledge transfer. Making gravy from pan drippings was the technique that turned every meat dish into 2 meals and wasted nothing in kitchens where every calorie counted towards survival. After frying or roasting meat, the browned bits and rendered fat left in the pan became foundation for rich gravies that stretched protein into something more filling. Flour was sprinkled directly into hot fat and stirred constantly until it formed a paste that cooked to golden brown, developing deep, nutty flavors. Milk, water, or broth was added slowly while stirring to prevent lumps, creating smooth gravy that captured every bit of flavor from the original meat. Children learned to make gravy by standing beside mothers at the stove, learning exact motions and timing that defined good cooking. The gravy was poured over biscuits, potatoes, and cornbread, making small amounts of meat feed large families. Nothing was scraped into garbage when this knowledge lived in households. Vinegar mother cultivation was how mountain families maintained continuous supplies of homemade vinegar using nothing but fruit scraps, water, and the mysterious living culture that transformed alcohol into acid. Scientists now understand this gelatinous mass as a symbiotic colony of acetic acid bacteria that modern fermentation enthusiasts cultivate intentionally. The process involved adding apple peels, cores, and bruised fruit to crocks of water, letting wild yeasts convert sugars to alcohol, then allowing the vinegar mother to transform that alcohol into acetic acid over weeks. The resulting vinegar contained enzymes, beneficial bacteria, and organic acids that commercial distilled vinegar lacks entirely. Mountain families used this living vinegar for preserving, cleaning, medicine, and cooking, passing down their mothers from generation to generation. Food scientists studying traditional vinegars now document health compounds that pasteurized commercial products destroy. Making buttermilk from regular milk stretched dairy budgets while providing essential ingredient for the fluffiest biscuits and most tender fried chicken that mountain cooking demanded. The process was simple: adding a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice to regular milk and letting it sit until thickened and slightly curdled, usually about 10 minutes. This homemade buttermilk worked perfectly in any recipe calling for the real thing at a fraction of the cost, since regular milk was always cheaper than cultured buttermilk. Families used this trick for pancakes, cornbread, cakes, and marinades, never needing to buy expensive specialty dairy products. The acid tenderized baked goods and meats alike, creating results that matched or exceeded recipes using store-bought buttermilk. Children watched mothers perform this kitchen alchemy, learning that substitutes often worked as well as the real thing when you understood the science behind cooking. This knowledge saved dollars monthly while losing nothing in quality. Keeping butter cool in the well was the refrigeration method mountain families relied on before electricity reached rural hollows. A covered crock or bucket containing butter was lowered on a rope into the family well, where water temperature stayed constant around 50 degrees year-round regardless of summer heat above ground. The butter remained firm and fresh for weeks without turning rancid, protected by both the cool temperature and the darkness that prevented light from breaking down the fats. Families designated specific depths for different foods, knowing exactly where to position the rope for optimal cooling. Children were often tasked with lowering and raising the butter crock, learning responsibility through this daily chore. The technique required watertight containers and careful handling to prevent contamination of the drinking water below. This simple system provided what modern refrigerators do today, using nothing but the Earth's natural temperature regulation and a bit of rope. Which of these hillbilly hacks would you try first? Drop your favorite in the comments below. Hit that like button if these tips brought back memories, and subscribe so you never miss another trip back to simpler times.